Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down big ideas. Today, we're diving into the art of clear thinking. We're going to explore how to take command of your own mind and break free from that pesky autopilot, especially in the moments that really, truly matter.
So, let me start with a story. There's the CEO, right? He is red with rage. His eyes are just locked on his number 2 after this explosive phone call, and he says those words. They needed to be put in their place. Well, it turns out the person on the other end of that line was desperately trying to warn him about a huge problem, something with massive consequences for the whole company. And that one single moment of uncontrolled anger, well, it changed everything for him.
You see, not long after that call, the CEO was fired. Not because he got angry, we all get angry, but because his ego literally stopped him from hearing critical information. And his story really brings up a massive question, doesn't it? Why do we, just like that CEO, so often let our impulses hijack our judgment in the very moments that have the biggest impact on our lives?
To answer that, we're going to go on a little journey from reaction to reason. First, we have to identify the enemy within, and that's our brain's biological autopilot. Second, we'll build the 4 foundational strengths we need to fight back. Then, we'll get ourselves a practical toolkit for making way better decisions. And finally, we'll talk about the ultimate goal, using clear thinking not just to get what we want, but to actually want the things that truly matter.
Okay, let's dive right in. Our journey starts by identifying the enemy. And here's the thing, it's not out there somewhere, it's inside our own heads. It's this hardwired system that puts our thinking on autopilot. And believe me, it often leads us down a path we never, ever meant to take.
So our brains, right, they evolve for survival, not for navigating the crazy complexities of the modern world. They came preloaded with these 4 key defaults that just take over when we're not paying attention. And these defaults, they create this tiny, almost invisible gap between a stimulus, like, say, a critical comment in a meeting, and our response. And in that gap, our biology hijacks our reason, and we react instead of respond.
So let's break these 4 defaults down. The emotion default, that's what makes us escalate a passive-aggressive email. The ego default, that gets triggered by a threat to our self-worth, and it can make us double down on a bad idea just to avoid admitting we were wrong. The social default, that's why we clap at a really boring conference talk just because everyone else is. And the inertia default, well, that's what keeps us stuck in a dead-end job. Because, starting something new just feels harder than doing nothing. These are like the 4 horsemen of bad judgment, and they are always waiting to grab the reins.
So, how do we fight back against these powerful, invisible forces? Look, it's not enough to just have a list of cool thinking tools. Before we can use any tool effectively, we have to build the internal foundation. We need these 4 strengths that allow us to create that space for reason so we can choose a deliberate response over a default reaction.
The first pillar is self-accountability. This is all about shifting from a victim mindset to one of ownership. It means stopping the blame game and realizing that while you can't control what happens to you, you always control your response. So before you act, ask yourself the super powerful question. Will this action make my future easier, or will it make it harder? Just that simple check can stop you from digging yourself into an even deeper hole.
The second strength is self-knowledge. You could also call it intellectual humility. It's the strength to say the 3 words that are probably the most difficult for smart people to say. I don't know. I heard a story about a super successful real estate investor who was offered a really compelling tech deal. He just passed on it, saying, I don't know anything about that space. I like to stick to what I know. Knowing where the edge of your competence is, that's what keeps you from taking risks you don't even realize you're taking.
Third, we absolutely need self-control. Now, this isn't about crushing your emotions. It's about managing your reactions to them. It's about creating that crucial pause between the stimulus and your response. Think about a basketball player's pre-shot ritual. It doesn't matter if they just made an amazing three-pointer or a terrible turnover, that ritual brings their mind right back to the present. Self-control lets you act with discipline, which is repeatable, instead of emotional intensity, which, as we know, is totally fleeting.
And finally, we need true self-confidence. I'm not talking about that fake arrogance of someone who read one article and now thinks they're an expert. True confidence is the strength to put the best possible outcome above your own ego. It means you're willing to change your mind, to admit you're wrong, and even to support a rival's idea if it's better than yours. It's all about focusing on what's right, not who is right.
All right, now that we've built our foundation, we can finally start to equip ourselves with a practical toolkit. These are the mental models and the safeguards that are going to help us apply clear thinking when we're right in the thick of it, staring down a tough decision.
You know, a great decision isn't a single event. It's actually a 4-stage process. And the most critical step, the one where most people get it wrong, is the very first one, defining the problem. We are so eager to jump into finding solutions that we waste enormous amounts of time and energy solving the wrong problem entirely. Just separating the problem-defining phase from the problem-solving phase is a game-changing safeguard for your mind.
Okay, a key to acting wisely is learning how to categorize our decisions. So, for choices that are low consequence and easily reversible, like picking a mattress from a store with a great return policy, the rule is ASAP, as soon as possible. Don't waste your precious mental energy. But for the big ones, the high-consequence, irreversible decisions, like having a child or choosing a career, the rule is ALAP, as late as possible. Delaying that decision lets you gather more information and keep your options open.
Now, when you're evaluating your options, the best thinkers don't just see what's right in front of them. They see the hidden trade-offs. They use these 3 lenses to uncover the opportunity cost. Moving to the suburbs for a bigger house sounds great. But when you ask, and then what, you see the 3-hour daily commute. And when you ask, at the expense of what, you see that the real cost is time with your family. These questions, they reveal the true price of your choices.
To protect ourselves from our own defaults in the heat of the moment, we can install these little mental safeguards. Create simple, automatic rules. Like the Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, he has a rule, I never say yes to a request on the phone. Or you can set tripwires, like a pre-agreed upon time to turn back on a mountain climb, no matter how close you think you are to the summit. Run small, low-risk experiments, bullets, before you fire your big, expensive cannonball. These safeguards are basically systems that protect you from yourself.
So, having the strengths and the tools to make effective decisions, that's powerful. It will definitely help you achieve your goals. But clear thinking has this final, deeper layer. All these tools help us get what we want, but this last part of our journey, this is about making sure we actually want the things that truly matter.
And this is a really critical distinction. An effective decision gets you an immediate result. A good decision aligns with your ultimate long-term values. You can effectively close a deal, for instance, but if it violates your principles, it wasn't a good decision. Here's the key. All good decisions are effective, but not all effective decisions are good. Wisdom is knowing that difference.
So many people get trapped chasing what you might call society's scoreboard, the one that values money, status, and power above everything else. They get stuck on what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. You know the feeling. You get the promotion, you feel great for maybe a week, and then it's just the new normal, and you're already chasing the next thing. This endless pursuit of more rarely leads to any kind of lasting fulfillment.
This brings us right to the heart of wisdom. Think about Ebenezer Scrooge. He was incredibly effective at accumulating wealth, playing by society's scoreboard to a T. But then the ghost of Christmas future showed him the ultimate outcome, a lonely death, totally unloved and unmourned. He had this stunning realization that the absolute worst regret is failing to live a life that's authentic to your own values, to your own scoreboard.
Steve Jobs actually asked himself this question in the mirror every single morning. He said that whenever the answer was no for too many days in a row, he knew he needed to change something. Now, this practice isn't morbid. It's an incredibly powerful tool for clarity. It forces us to turn our future hindsight into our current foresight, making sure our daily actions are actually building a life we won't end up regretting.
Ultimately, clear thinking isn't just some intellectual exercise. It's about taking command of your mind to align your actions with your deepest values. Good judgment is expensive. It takes real effort and practice. But poor judgment, that will cost you a fortune you simply can't afford to pay. A life spent solving all the wrong problems. So the only question left is, what problems are you working on?
Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. If this breakdown on clear thinking resonated with you, it would mean the world if you could help us spread the knowledge by liking, subscribing, and sharing this with anyone who could use a little more clarity in their life.